Please welcome to the stage our cowboy poet, Mr. Dean Steele.
I should say that this isn't my poem. It's a poem by Robert Service, a pretty famous, renowned poet.
Closer to the mic, dear.
Strange things happen in the land of the midnight sun by men who moil for gold. Those Arctic trails have secret tales, things that make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest sight they ever did see is a night on the marge of Lake LaBarge when I cremated Sam McGee. Well, now, Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where cotton balls bloom and blow. Why he ever left his warm home in the South to roam around the pole, heavens only knows. He was always cold, but that land of gold seemed to grasp him like a spell. Though he'd often say in his homely way, he'd sooner live in hell, Boise. It was on Christmas Day. We were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold through the parka's fold, oh, it stabbed into you like a driven nail. If your eyes you'd close, then your lashes froze, till sometimes you couldn't see. 'Twasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. That very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, the dogs were fed and the bright stars overhead were dancing heel and toe. He turned to me and, "Captain," says he, "I may turn in this trip, I guess, and if I do, I'm asking you to not refuse my last request." Well, now, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, and I swore I would not fail. As we started on at the streak of dawn, oh, he looked ghastly pale. He was crouched over the sleigh, and he raved all day of his warm home back in Tennessee. By nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death as I hurried on, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise that I'd given. He was lashed to the sleigh, and he seemed to say, "You may tax your brawn and brain, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate this last remain." A promise made really is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were numb, in my heart how I cursed that load. In the long, long nights by a lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled their woes to the homeless snows. But oh, how I loathed that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. But on I went, though my dogs were spent and my grub was getting low. I felt half mad. I felt half mad. And I can't remember what's after that. I felt mad, half mad. What goes after that? Till I came to the barge of Lake LaMarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed down in the ice, but I could see in a trice it was called the Alice May. I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. "Here," said I with a sudden cry, "is my crematorium." Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some boards I found just lying around, and I heaped the fuel up higher. Oh, the fire soared and the furnace roared, such a sight you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in that glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Well, then I took a hike, for I didn't like to hear his body sizzle so. The heavens scowled and the huskies howled and the cold wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but yet hot sweat rolled down my cheeks. I don't know why. The fire made a greasy smoke in an inky cloak, kind of slithered down through the sky. I don't know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peek inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked, and the furnace door I opened wide. There sat Sam, looking calm and cool in the heat of the furnace roar. He wore a smile you could see a mile, and he yelled, please, shut that door. It's warm in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and the storm. Since I left Plum Tree back in Tennessee, this is the first time I've been warm. Oh, strange things happen in the land of the midnight sun by men who moil for gold. Those Arctic trails have secret tales of things that make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest sight they ever did see is that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge when I cremated Sam McGee. I spent the entire last summer up at Bogus Basin digging a big hole in the ground. They wanted snowmaking water. So I found myself on a crew with other men. We logged off all the trees and grubbed out all the brush, and then we dug and we dug. We blasted and we dug. Better than a 65-foot hole, deep hole in the ground, trying to get a big enough holding pond for snowmaking water. Of all that digging, no one found any gold. I was born right here in Boise on the north end. I guess that calls me a north ender. Nestled in the foothills. You didn't have to look very hard to see the towering Schaefer Butte and Bogus Basin at its foot. Some of my earliest memories are riding with my father up to Bogus Basin to get firewood. He'd back his truck into a mountain bank and cut big log rounds and fill up his truck and haul them home. I was the youngest of a family of 12, had 7 boys and 5 girls, and any given number of passers-by that needed a roof over their head or a hot meal. My mother and father never turned anyone away in need. So I was raised with the stories of Bogus Basin, clear back in the 1860s, how one Captain Morgan and his buddies decided to make some extra money, and they would mix a little fool's gold and sell bogus gold claims. And they made quite a lot of money until they got caught. But the name stuck, and thus you have Bogus Basin today. Our home, nestled there in the foothills below, heated with an old coal furnace, but we never burned any coal. All we ever burned in it was that firewood that come from the mountain there. Oh, I can remember it so clearly, huddled over the vent with the blanket over my head to capture the heat. Oh, that felt good on a cold winter night, keeping warm by that vent. When I was just a little guy, you can imagine with that family of 12, it was a full house. Christmas time, oh, the presents were huge, a mountain of presents. Now I understand that Christmas is all about giving, but to a little guy, it's all about getting. And I'd been through that whole pile, wanting to see what I'm gonna get. I'd shake them. can't tell what's in this one. It's not for me. Mama, I don't find anything in this big pile for me. I don't think I'm going to get anything for Christmas. Oh, stop whining, she'd say. You've got plenty of things coming for Christmas. I always wanted a snowmobile. I never gotten, to this day, I've still not gotten a snowmobile. All I ever got was a slinky. You remember those little slinkies? Our home had 3 stairways in it, so you could have a lot of fun with a slinky until towards the end of Christmas Day when it got all tangled up and twisted or someone step on it. But for the short time you had it, slinkies are great. Not as good as a snowmobile. I'd much rather have the snowmobile. This particular Christmas, oh my goodness, that huge pile shrunk, got smaller and smaller and shorter, till there was just 2 or 3 left. And then I saw the tears welling up in my mother's eyes as she realized she really did forget her little boy on Christmas. I was heartbroken. I was so angry. I stormed out the house and I headed straight for the hills. I was running away from home, never to return. I was going to live like a mountain man and live off the land at Bogus Basin. Never going to return home. Can you imagine? I was so angry with my mother, my family, the world. There, I don't think I got too close to Bogus Basin, but in my little guy's mind, I was headed that way and I was getting there. There in the holly of a gully in the foothills, heartbroken, I cried myself to sleep. I awoke. The sun was getting low in the western sky, and I was freezing cold and freezing. And I thought, if I'm going to be a mountain man, live off the land, I better find something to get warm. And I'm getting hungry too. I wonder if I could sneak back home and find something to eat and maybe something to warm up with. So I headed back that way. I snuck in the house and no one seemed to be around. I got in there without anyone seeing me. There on my pillow was a tear-stained note from my mother apologizing for forgetting her little boy. And a $20 bill. $20 was a lot for that day. Still heartbroken, I fell asleep again in the hollow of my pillow, feeling the warmth of that heat coming through the vent. You know, it wasn't much longer after that. A letter came home from school. Free skiing lessons through the Boise City Recreation Association. I always wanted to learn to ski. I'd been up there with my father getting firewood, and I saw the facilities there for skiing, but skiing was for rich people, and nobody in our family skied. That was just a little bit high. How was that going to happen if you couldn't get a snowmobile? Mama, can I learn to ski? And she looked at me and she read through that. You really want to ski? I said, yeah, some of my friends skied. So my dad went down to the main auction. And that auction still exists today. He bought me a pair of old wood skis and cable bindings and lace-up boots. And boy, I was going to learn to ski. I got on the bus and away I went. You know, I remember one of the times the teacher would stand a little ways below the hill and everybody would ski down the hill, and she'd, bend your legs a certain way this way, snow plow to slow down, and stem Christie, they call it, for turning. With them old wood skis, the edges were kind of broke off. They used to have little metal edges on there, to give you a sharp edge to cut with. But these were old skis, and the edges were gone. When it came my turn, I wouldn't go. My skis pointing straight down the hill, pushing with my poles, and I still couldn't go. And all those kids kind of looking at me, well, what's wrong with you? Go. the teacher made her way up to me and, "Oh, you've got the wrong wax on your skis." I learned something that day. With old wooden skis, you got to have the right wax for the snow conditions, or the snow just packs up on. It's like 2x4 boards sitting in the snow. She pulled out a block of wax from her pocket, and she knocked all that snow off my skis, and she waxed and waxed and waxed. Wow, did those skis take off. I was skiing for gold. You know, the next Christmas, I still didn't get a snowmobile. I think I still got a slinky. But there under that tree, I had a nice new yellow pair of Castinger boots and some shiny black head skis with Solomon bindings that lock in. I was skiing for gold. A lot of years have come and gone since then. Who would ever believe that I'd find myself employed at that glorious mountain? Nearly 20 years past and gone, working for that organization. Great organization for this community. I'm still skiing for gold, but not so much skiing anymore. I spend my nights, I'll leave this meeting and go right up there and jump in my snowcat. I groom the slopes, getting ready to ski for gold the next day. Whether it be snow white gold that comes behind a snowcat when you get it just perfect as you can be for those gold skiers the next day, or whether it be the water that we make some nice white gold snow out of that pond, or if it's the heat coming out of that vent, firewood that came from Bogus Basin, I found gold at Bogus Basin.